the last thing I remember is that he said, "How do you say kiss in your language?" And I heard his zipper go down and his pants go down. And at that point, I was like, "No, this is the time that I like run and I have to scream."
Ciao a tutti and welcome to another episode of Outsider. My name is Mattia and I'm your host. Today's guest is Carol. She was born in Mexico and she traveled to various places before finding herself here in the UK. Her story is quite amazing, so I recommend you guys to stick to it until the end. And guys, if you like this stuff, as usual, please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow my Instagram, and if you're listening on Spotify, please carry on doing so. That's great. And I'm not gonna waste more of your time. Let's dive into it. If I listen to your story, I'm sure I'll grab something that will help with my life. If you hear my story, I'm sure you will have something to grab and get inspired by. Even if it's just even if it's honestly just a tiny little thing. I think if I do enough, I might be able to change a little bit in the world. That's the dream.
Have you ever heard about the elephant metaphor? I think it's an Indian metaphor that there are five blind men looking at an elephant, and one says, "Oh, well, it's got hairs and it's got a tail, so it's this," and everybody's looking at the elephant from a different point of view, and they're all wrong, but they're all correct because they're all looking at it's a huge elephant, so the blind man that's at the tail says, "Oh, well, this is a tail, and this is," or this one, "No, this is a hose," because it's, so we're all looking at the same thing from different points of view. And I always like that metaphor.
I have never heard of it.
It's like an Indian, like Brahman
I do have a question
wisdom.
though. How can they say, because they're blind, are you saying they're looking at it?
No, they're standing. Yeah, they're feeling it. So they feel something inside. It's like, oh, this is no, this is just a belly. It's something else. And one is only at the tail and it's feeling it. And they for them that is true because that, and it's correct. What they're feeling is correct, but it's only a point of view. So it's what we call subjective truth. Everyone has their. It's not objective truth. The objective truth is outside of us. I do believe there is a truth, because now it's like, well, no, whatever is important for me, no, and like there is such a thing as objective truth.
Yeah, I've heard of this. For example, the objective truth is that that mug is on the table right now, and a subjective truth would be,
well, I don't like that it's there.
Okay.
Or it's really close to me.
Right.
But, or like that perception, the narrative that I put on it, it's very real. I feel it, but it not my. It's the whole thing with the pronouns thing. It's like you might feel that you're in a body of a woman, or but you're a man, but you still have a dick. Like there is an objective truth. So you might have your own experience. I'm not going to deny your feelings, but there is still science. And just because you feel one way, it doesn't mean that men and women or female and male don't exist.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I don't want to spark a lot of fire now, but I agree with you. I've always said that the same thing. I will respect whatever you feel, because, like you said, whatever you feel is real. Like, I can understand. I mean, I'm not understanding it because I can't feel it, but I understand your feelings. But don't. I don't like to be pressured on things either.
Yeah.
Like, I live myself in my own world as well, which I'm sharing with all of you, and I want you to respect my point of view too, right?
And that's the problem that I see nowadays, that people say, and that's why I feel so infuriated that people are getting fired on their jobs for saying the wrong thing or etc. Because it's like, okay, you have your subjective truth, but you don't have the right to impose that truth on me.
Yeah.
And it's like, just because, well, it's my pronouns and you have to, now everybody has to be forced to speak in a certain way because that is their perception. And it's like, no, I also have my rights to freedom of expression, and your rights and where mine begin.
Well, exactly. Why is your right to believe
that you are, let's say,
Yeah,
a woman. It's like fine, believe that, but
yeah,
if I'm gonna go to a jiu-jitsu competition, I don't want to be hit by a man if I've been training
mm,
a long time. So you might believe that you're a woman, but in reality you have a terrible advantage with a
yeah,
biological performance enhancer called testosterone that is a very like easy thing to measure, and somehow like no, you're violating my rules. It took us a long time for women to be appreciated and have equal rights to compete. And that's where I do feel it's like no, there are limits to how much of a right you have to your subjective truth.
yeah.
So it's a dangerous thing. We've had a good warm up. I think we're not
Yeah,
recording, right?
he's recording. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, it
yeah.
is
He's
recording.
fine. Like it's let's just like start like that. Like
Yeah,
your name is Carol.
yeah, yeah.
Hi, Carol.
That happens to me a lot.
No,
Ooh,
it's fine. Like I think.
I'll be in the street. I'll have a great conversation with someone, and then I'll be like, "Oh, damn, what was your name?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
No, it's great. It's great. I love this part. Maybe we can go back to it later on. I
yeah,
just wanna hear about your personal story because you come from Mexico. You told me that you went to Egypt as well, and can we say you went illegally in America as well?
yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
You can tell that. I want to hear about that. Why did you end up here in the UK? What happened in your life? Do you want to start from when you were a kid, maybe?
yeah. I wasn't sure we were recording already, but
No, no, yeah, it's
sure.
fine.
Yeah. So I was born in the north of Mexico, in a city called Torreon. Do you know where Chihuahua is?
I've heard of it, but I don't know where it
Yeah,
is.
it's not there. So, but it's near that region.
Okay.
So we're in the center north. I think it's the seventh or ninth most financially prosperous part of the country. The motto of my city is literally the city that defeated the desert. And we are great at farming, although it's a desert. The biggest lactose company comes from there. It's a very industrious, very productive part of the country. And then when I was about two, my family, I come from a very poor family, but my dad, I was born in what we call in Mexico a cradle of gold.
Mm-hmm.
So my parents were very rich just when I was born, and then we lost everything out of the blue. So we had to run away to the US and start life over.
Do you want to linger on that, or do you?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I was very young, so the consequences, or I can linger a little bit more on the consequences. I think the ironic thing is that, like most immigrants, you hear a lot of the build the wall and stop the immigrants. Most of the immigrants that overstay their time in the U.S. actually arrive the same way that I did, by plane. So it's like you can keep on building your walls. We'll get there through submarines, through planes, and what just happens is that people enter the country legally and they overstay their visas.
Right.
So yeah, we got on a plane. We left. I was pretty small, so I think I was very. Do you remember this Italian movie, La Vita è
La
Bella?
vita è bella.
Yeah, yeah.
Roberto Benigni.
My mom was basically that, like Robert. I mean, I was in Auschwitz, but
Yeah, I know.
but that kind of I kind of had that mom who was always like
Right.
trying to. I didn't know we were illegal. I was pretty young. I think they were also afraid that I'd speak, like if they told me, oh, by the way, I hate the word illegal. We were undocumented. It's not a criminal offense to overstay your visa. It's a civil
Mm.
offense, but people will say, "Oh, you're a criminal." It's like people who don't know about law. It's a civil offense. It's not a criminal
Just to specify, you're
offense.
a lawyer, so you also know what
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
talking
When I
about.
when I came back to
Yeah,
Mexico, I
yeah.
my first degree is in law, and yeah. So we went to the States. That was rough. My parents would work like 20-hour shifts. We started a restaurant, which is kind of weird because normally you think it's like, oh, people will be having several jobs, but we also immigrants also start their own businesses, and we would hire Americans, which was kind of ironic. And of course, the whole family had to work.
Yeah.
So I started working when I was about 6 years old. I used to love shrimp. prawns, as they call them here. And I remember my mom used to laugh a lot because I used to love cutting out the little veins. And for some reason, I would just like put the veins in a little edge of a cup and make art with it. Gross. Now that I think about it, it's like, why would I do that? But I would help cleaning in the restaurant, cleaning in the tables. So yeah, it was rough. I think the hardest thing about that was that I really didn't have a childhood. Like we were always working, and if
Mm.
everybody used to go to sleepovers or parties, I did have a lot of food. Like Americans are great at comfort feeding, and there's a lot of really delicious but not healthy food
Yeah.
around. So that was a way to keep me busy. But and we would go to malls. There's a lot of entertainment, but I just didn't have the lifestyle that everyone else around me had. So
Mm.
I I used to love going to school because that was the time when I really didn't have to work,
Mm.
and it's rough. Like my parents were always busy, so yeah, they were just trying the best that they could. It was until I think my grandpa died. My mom's died. Grandpa died when I was about 9 or 10. They my uncles and aunts used to say that he used to look. So we ran away and we couldn't tell our family when we were because we owed a ton of money,
Mm.
and my grandpa used to like go out and look in the mountains. It's like what direction is my daughter? Like I don't know where they are, and it was until he died that my parents started to say, you know what, we have money, we have to work really hard, but we do have enough to cover our needs, but at what cost? Like it's sacrificing the family. One of my step siblings. So my mom ran away with a married man when she was 19. And so he had a first family, and then we were the children of my dad's second family, and one of his first children went with us when he was about 22. He would help us in the kitchen. One time he cut off his finger. It was an accident in the kitchen.
Well, completely off.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Oh, I mean, there was like bone and everything exposed. It was terrible. And we didn't know. It's like, do you take him to the hospital because you're illegal and you're afraid that if you go to a hospital like that
Yeah.
will put you in the system. So you're always terrified of, like, you always feel in fear of that. I think the hardest thing for me, I appreciate the work ethic that my parents gave me. It allowed me to get all the way to Oxford, where I'm doing my PhD right now. So I appreciate that. Um, it was just hard that it's like, oh, you don't have that freedom to do a lot of stuff afterwards, because there was always, you know how you hear about ICE putting kids in
Yeah.
cages
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and all that. So I mean, we immigrated when it during the 90s, so you wouldn't hear that stuff that bad, but there were a lot of stories of people who sent their kids to school in the morning. La migra, so immigration would come and catch the parents, and when the kids came back from school, their parents had been deported. So
How do you say that in Spanish? You said a word in Spanish,
la
right?
migra,
La
so
migra. Okay.
immigration's like,
Yeah.
oh, you always had to be the watch out for la
Mm.
migra. Now it's just ICE.
Yeah.
And but back in the 90s it was like, oh, la migra.
Mm.
And yeah, so that was rough. My parents were always terrified. It's like, what if you go to school and when you're back, like, we've already been deported to Mexico, or
Sorry if I cut you off. What happens to the kids when that actually happens? So if they go to school and then the parents get deported, what happens to the kids after? Do they stay in America? Do they stay?
it depends. Well, I mean, I'm not that specialized. I've kind of lost touch with that
Mm.
side of immigration, but I feel, I mean, that if they're residents, like a lot of their, do you remember DACA? So like the Dreamers, during the Obama times, there was an attempt to try to legalize kids who were kind of like my case, who arrived in the U.S. when they were children. So it
Mm.
was beyond their will, and they were trying to regularize them. And also with yeah, if you're parent, like if you're an illegal immigrant and your children are born there, they're American, so they
Yeah.
have the right to stay. I don't know. Things with Trump are changing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about this Salvadorian guy who randomly got sent back. Like there's a lot of fear now that even if you are born in the States, you won't be considered an
Hmm.
American anymore. But as far as I know, those kids. But I wasn't in that situation. I was Mexican born,
Right.
and since I wasn't a citizen, you go back
Right.
with your parents, or yeah, at least yeah. I'm not quite sure. I'd be making things
Yeah.
up.
No, it's fine. I
There,
just
there,
thought like, oh, okay, what would happen to them? Yeah, it's fine. If you
there
don't know,
must
it's
be
fine.
like civil services,
Yeah.
like social services that look after
Maybe they
minors.
will relocate you, with your parents after. It might look for them and then get you,
But in the
back
meantime, I
to.
mean, it's already been traumatized enough.
Oh,
They
100%.
arrested and the
Yeah.
separation and everything. So,
Yeah. And people will say, well, this is not your country, so it's not my fault that you came here. What would you say to that?
I don't know. I think I didn't know that back then when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh well, I don't like. What do you mean I don't belong here? I've lived
Mm,
here all my childhood. That would have been a bit of a shock. I think I call myself a pilgrim because I've lived in different countries and I've always been an outsider. I've always been so I kind of knew in the U.S. that I didn't belong there,
mm,
but I've also never belonged anywhere else. So it's not the end of the world if someone tells me the legal and the economic ramifications. That's where you're like, well, what am I supposed to do if I
yeah.
don't belong here? Like, what do I call home? Especially when you're a child. So there's always like this big dilemma of like unaccompanied minors in terms of immigration. But yeah, I'm kind of not an expert in that field. So
No, it's fine. I was
yeah.
just curious to see what you think about it. And do you feel like you're at home now?
It's weird. I think my mom died during COVID and my mom used to be home. And I think for me now, home is not a place. Home is the people that you have. So wherever my husband and my baby now are, that's home for me. It's not really about a place.
That's really sweet, and I'm sorry to hear about your mom as well.
Thank
I recently lost her too, so I know how it feels.
you.
Yeah,
Sorry about
I
that.
know it's fine.
Do you want to cry together?
I'm sorry if I asked you
No,
if I.
no, it's okay. Yeah, I don't always get the waterworks with that. It's just,
Yeah, sometimes
um,
I'm trying really hard not to, but it's like.
the thing with grief is that like the most random things, like you'll see a jar of peanut butter and then you'll remember that she liked peanuts and it's like something like that, and then random things won't, like you'll see someone die on television. It's like, yeah, I'm cool.
Yeah,
It's a,
I cry more for like animals dying on TV rather than like people. We were accustomed to see people shooting at other people, but as soon as a little dog or a little rabbit dies of disease, you're like, oh my god. But yeah, no, yeah, I completely understand what you mean. I not long ago, before she died, sorry, after she died, I received a picture of my mom when she was maybe 10, 12, something like that, and she looked exactly like my sister. Like they are literally the same. And I just like I couldn't hold it. I'm very emotional, I'm a very emotional guy. Guys are not supposed to cry and everything.
it's great.
Like if I need to, I will. I don't care. I do rarely cry though. Like it takes a lot for me to cry. But that picture, I was like, oh my god, I just couldn't hold it. Like it just like came out like that. I'm like, oh. So yeah, I understand what you mean.
What I hate is when Google now sends you like memories or out of this. It's like, why are you showing me this right now? Like I gotta work. Like don't
Yeah,
distract me. It's been 5 years. How long has it been since your mom
2
passed?
years now.
Okay, it's still
Yeah,
relatively
she was in a
fresh.
coma for 10 years though.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
So do you
that's
remember earlier when I said everyone's got a story, and I started this because
sure.
myself, I have a story
Oh,
too.
we totally have to get to that episode then. I'm
So
curious
yeah,
now.
yeah, she was in a coma for 10 years, and yeah, and then she passed away 2 years ago. Yeah.
Rough. Was she in Italy
She
or?
was in Italy. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
that's rough. How long have you been here?
10 years.
I think now I'm interviewing you
Yeah,
now.
yeah. I came here 1 year after she fell in a coma. Basically, I couldn't sustain living in Sardinia
Mm.
by myself. I was 22, so I was really young. If I think about it now, I was like, I wasn't a kid when it happened, but I was immature for that sort of situation to happen to someone and be like, I wasn't left alone in the sense that there was no one else. Like, all my family was with me. Like, I had friends. I have like my aunties, my granddad, my grandma. I had family there, but I couldn't live on their shoulders, if that makes sense. So I
Mm.
had to come here for that reason as well.
So
Yeah.
who stayed with your mom while she?
My grandparents and my
Okay,
aunties, her sisters and brother as
so
well.
she had that network.
Yeah. I was the I would sign for all her documents legally, and I passed down to her brother after. But yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No,
yeah,
no, it's okay. Like
yeah,
it's I think I there's this something a difference that I something that I learned when my mom died is the difference between empathy and sympathy.
mm,
And it's like someone with sympathy can say, "Oh, I'm sorry for your mom." But until you, and from an intellectual level, I think we kind of all understand grief, but
mm,
it's not until you really experience empathy. And it's like, I think only another person who has lost their mom will understand
yeah,
that huge hole
yeah,
that is left. So it's like, oh, it's like you too. It's kind
yeah.
of
In a sad way, but in a good
yeah,
way,
yeah.
yeah.
It's that's like, oh, you're part.
Mm.
Welcome to
Yeah,
the sand crew.
and to stay in that kind of circle, my sister's my sister's boyfriend dad took us to the airport the day after
Mm,
in a rush because he understood the situation because he lost his mom too when
mm,
he was young. So it's all a circle. Like he
yeah, yeah.
understood how we felt. So it was like, I'll take you to the airport. He took a day off, I believe, and no, it was at night time, so I don't know. But anyway, he rushed us to the,
Yeah,
you
it
know,
changes like
yeah,
completely. Like we also lost a friend a couple of weeks ago,
mm,
and when we heard about that, she was 33, left a baby behind, and when I heard that, it's like I'm a mom and I've lost my mom. I told my husband like, drop what you're doing. You need to go and help because it just changed. Like
yeah,
you understand how dark we all experience grief differently, and
yeah,
like when my mom died, I just wanted to be on my own in a dark
yeah,
circle, but if someone asks for help, it's like, no, you need to be
yeah,
there.
100%. Yeah.
So you just understand a little bit better. It's sad. I can't count silver linings of losing my mom, but if there is one, it's like, okay, it makes you a little bit more human.
Mm, that's
I
a good
think
way to put it. Yeah.
everybody like just cry with us now.
Let
Anyway,
us know if you cried. So yeah,
outsiders.
we were in America.
We were
We
in
were,
America, sad place as
yeah,
well.
nah. So
and
yeah,
then
sorry,
and then
just
we decided to go
yeah.
back to Mexico. I think it was really funny because my sister, she was 15, 16. She was absolutely destroyed
Mm,
about learning that we were going to Mexico. I'm not sure if because she had actually a childhood in Mexico, or because she was like had boyfriends and friends and
yeah.
everything. So losing your world at 16, 15 is really hard. Where I was excited. It's like, oh, I've never been in Mexico. I struggled a lot with the whole change of language. It's like, oh, first, like I'm kind of native bilingual by an age group, but it's like first you have to learn English and now you have to relearn Spanish.
Mm.
So I had to relearn what it was to be Mexican.
Did you know
And
speak Spanish
Spanish.
Mexican with your
Spanish.
parents?
Yeah, but my parents were always working. So
Right,
like my mom used to work 20-hour shifts in our
right.
restaurant. So most of my language development was at school.
Uh huh.
And then my mom would always make fun of me because I was like, "Ah, mom, it hurts. What hurts? I don't remember how to say it in Spanish. We'll say it in English. Me duele mi knee. My knee hurts." And like random things. Or do you know false cognates?
No.
So when you learn a language, a cognate is a word that is very similar. So I'll use the Spanish cognate. So, for example, embarrassed in English means to be ashamed.
Yeah.
Embarazada in Spanish means to be pregnant. So it's like if you say, "Oh, I'm embarrassed" or something like that. I'm trying to think how someone would adopt a false cognate. It's
Yeah.
not the same, and I used to do that a lot in Spanish. I think probably the one that got me into the most issues when I was a teen. My dad showed me some publicity, and he asked me for feedback with his publicist, and I was like, "Oh, that looks very." I used to confuse heroic with erotic
Oh.
in Spanish, and I was like, "Oh, that looks very erotic." And when I was trying to say heroic,
Yeah.
and so that was kind of something weird that used to happen. So I had to relearn how to be Mexican, and had to relearn how to speak Spanish. That's when people tell me, it's like, "Oh, what kind of Mexican food do you like?" It's like, "Oh, that's
Mm,
hard because I think my palate." I have a Mexican palate, but it's predominantly American.
right.
So I do love Mexican food, but I also love American food as well.
I understand.
And so yeah, when I went back to school, I didn't really speak Spanish well, and I was very bullied because it's like, "Oh, well, you don't fit in here."
Mm.
It was kind of ironic because even in my own country, I was a foreigner. And that's why I tell you, like, where do you call home? It's like I'm a pilgrim. I just wander around.
It is weird, right? How people are like born in a place they didn't choose. I didn't choose where I was born. You didn't choose where you were born. No one chooses where they're
Mm.
born, and still we have this sense of my country, my this, my that, and then you were born there. You just like happen to move, not for your own choice,
Mm.
to another place, and then when you have to integrate yourself there, even though you were born there, that is your country, you were bullied anyway, just because you maybe couldn't speak the language very well or whatever. It's so stupid to me how some people think.
You know what was the
Right.
worst thing? I was in an all-girl Catholic school, and so we have a saying in Mexico. It's probably in other languages as well. Rancho grande, infierno. No, rancho pequeño, infierno grande. Like a small village is a
Big.
big hell
Oh yeah.
because everybody knows inside, and it's like you're in this little tiny school. So they were, oh, hello everyone, there were a ton of snobs, and it's like people who value. I was from a very poor background, but everyone had money, so it's like, oh, I also don't belong there because
Mm.
financially I was just really good at school, so I had scholarships. But it's like, oh, you also don't belong here financially. And something that I learned, which is quite ironic, is that Mexico is a really racist country. I like a lot of countries. Like I speak to my Indian friends, to like different people in the global south, and a lot of the times we speak about racism as, oh, this is a white man's thing, like white people are racist. But I
Mm.
also find that brown and black people can be very racist. And I remember I used to think that I was brown until I moved to university, and because my teachers, like, their favorite girls were the blonded blue-eyed girls, which were like three or four in Mexico. But
Mm.
it's like you have the high class, and we don't speak a lot about pretty privilege as well.
Mm.
Like they'll speak about white privilege, but people who tend to look nicer also
Mm.
have an advantage in life. So
I've heard about this, but yeah.
so it was like, I think that was something hard for me to grasp. I didn't really, it was like a cultural shock that I didn't really experience racism until I went back to Mexico. And it's like, and it also happened that it was like 9/11, and then I would look back at my yearbooks in the US, and it's like, oh, I didn't know that these people were Muslim. Like we were all the same. There wasn't
Mm.
this kind of division. It's such a multicultural place, the US, that being different is
Yeah.
not new. And at least where I lived, it was, I mean, I grew up in Atlanta, which is like a black culture stronghold. Martin
Mm.
Luther King was huge there as well. And yeah, it was weird for me that I didn't really learn about racism until I went back to Mexico, and you have all like these post-colonial mentalities where the white peninsular people that look like the Spaniards, those are the people who are more valuable. And then, but if you're brown, or it's like I used to think I was dark skinned for a long time. I'm telling you, until I went to university. So that was kind of a big cultural shock for me to find that in Mexico. That we even have an expression, which is funny. I look back to Facebook, and a lot of my classmates married foreign man. I can't object. I also did that. But there's this expression in Spanish, mejorar la raza, to improve the race.
Right.
And so people will always try to, it's like, oh, you have to look more European or more white to improve
I don't
in
get
life.
these things. I don't think I will ever get them. I understand what you're talking about and I can see it, but I will never feel them. I
Yeah.
don't, I just see people. I don't know. It sounds weird and it
You
sounds
you
like,
you sound a bit pansexual there. I don't see
no,
color.
no, no,
I just
no.
see
I
people's
don't,
bodies.
I'm straight. I'm like,
I
I
know,
don't
I
care
know, I
about,
know. I'm just turning it
yeah, no,
around.
I understand what you mean. I just hate this. I don't hate them, but I dislike them a lot.
I think it's like from an evolutionary point of view. The technical term is outside of my head right now,
Hmm.
but we do tend to favor people who look like us. I mean, probably that the best example of this was when the Ukraine war exploded and everybody was like, "Oh, come to Britain and we'll," like there was this huge racial component in
Hmm.
trying to favor several types of refugees than others. And it's like, "Oh, well, these people look more like us. They're more like us than, let's say, Syrian refugees or
Hmm.
refugees from Somalia." I understand the evolutionary and like our monkey brains, how they
Right.
react to that. So it's like, fine, I understand that. I don't approve of it or I don't support it, but it's like, okay, I see where you're coming from. Like people who look more different than us, obviously they're a lot more threatening.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's just so that was weird when I was in Mexico. Then something weird that I started to realize is that especially after 9/11, so one day I was in school during lunchtime, I we look at the television, two airplanes crash into the twin towers, and that kind of changed a
Hmm.
bit the world. I
Yeah.
think, and all of a sudden it's like, hmm, who are these Muslim people? It's like, oh yeah, they've been around. So there were a lot of reasons why that curiosity started bubbling in me. I was also a belly dancer for a while, so I was obsessed with Egyptian music. And I think you're having a lot of conversations with people and about their personal stories and their food. I think a shortcut for me to understand cultures is to listen to their music. And there was
Hmm.
just something about Arab music, and particularly Egyptian music, that was just hypnotizing. So I used to dance. I used to, I learned how to play darbuka, the
Yeah.
drums, and I would study lyrics, and I was just obsessed with that. And of course, being a Christian, Egypt being part of the Holy Land was a very attractive place for me.
Hmm.
Egypt just has like layers and layers of history. So I got to a point where I said, you know what, I can't keep like have people keep on telling me, or I can't keep on relying on secondary sources about Egypt. I have to go there. And so I graduated from university. I applied for a scholarship. It failed the first time. I got a full scholarship the second time to go to the American University in Cairo, and I stayed there for 5 years.
That is so cool.
And that was a completely different. There, I was like, you know what? I've always been a foreigner,
Hmm.
and now I'm really going to soak into the outfit and embrace being a foreigner. It was great. It was like the adventure of my life. I have a huge respect for the Coptic rite, so the indigenous Christians of
Hmm.
Egypt. That's the Coptic church.
I don't. I actually have never heard of it. What? Can you
Sorry.
speak? I have actually never heard of that. What?
So after the I'm gonna get a little bit intellectual here, but after the Council of Chalcedon, the church divided into two. You have the I'm not gonna get that's not your audience. Never mind.
It's okay. No, no, it's fine.
But
I'm
the
interested.
indigenous church of Egypt is the Coptic
Right.
Orthodox. Coptic Orthodox Church, and there's also a Catholic branch, which is what I study in my PhD, and it's beautiful. I think there is a huge richness of martyrs that have defended their faith throughout different times. I think the best contribution that Egyptian Christianity has given us, in addition to a huge spirituality, is the heritage of monasticism. So you have saints like Saint Anthony and Saint Paul
Mm-hmm.
who went into the desert and they brought, and now you go throughout the world and there are Christian monasteries, but the ones who really had that ascetic practice of going into the desert and just really like detaching yourself
Mm.
from the needs of this world were the Egyptians. It's a
Okay.
fascinating land. As a Christian, it's full of beautiful resources and examples and sources of inspiration. And I think that it's a very contested issue, and that's a thorny thing that I'm tackling with my PhD thesis right now. It's like, are they persecuted? Are they not persecuted? You hear all the time about terrorist attacks
Mm.
and church attacks, and then people who will say, oh, well, they're not persecuted. And it's like, yeah,
Mm.
I mean, it's a very complicated conversation, but as a Christian, I really, really admire our sisters and brothers in the Middle East who, I mean, it's not just in the Middle East. It's really like the most persecuted religion right now in our times is Christianity,
Mm.
and it's really, it's those people who really lift up the standards of saying, it's like, why are you afraid of defending your faith anywhere if people have to spill their blood and give their lives to defend what they believe to be the truth? So yeah, I'm just I've always had this fascination for the Coptic rite. I remember when I lived in Mexico, Muslims used to tell me, "Well, you shut up, white girl. What are you gonna know about the Middle East? Like you're like," and people would equate authority to speak with origin. So if you're Arab, you can, or you're Muslim, you can speak about the Middle East, and it's kind of like saying, well, what are you going to know about abortion? You're a man. And it's
Mm.
like, but what if you're a doctor? And what if you've performed, like,
Mm.
just because you have a certain identity, it doesn't exclude you if you've actually put in the intellectual merit. And I really hate that sort of so I mean, I've for the last 19 years, I've been studying Arabic in the Middle East, and I lived there for a long time. I don't consider myself an authority, but I think I can have an opinion
Yeah.
on things that happen over there. And yeah, I just think that the example of the Coptic church is quite impressive. It's the biggest Christian minority in the Middle East. It's about 10% of the population
I've never heard of
in
them.
Egypt. Oh, they're pretty, and they're going around. Do you know what's the guy? Did you watch the movie Bohemian Rhapsody? Rami Malek.
I know the guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I.
So
Yeah.
he's well, at least I think he's a like from Coptic descendant. There are a lot of like important cops out there in the world, so
Mm.
they're a little bit more visible. But yeah, from like I don't know, I'm fascinated with Eastern Christianity, so
Yeah.
it's probably a little bit more visible
Yeah.
when you study it.
I have literally never heard of it. I understand what you're talking about because it's a that place is like Muslim centered, right? Like
Mm.
there's yeah, it's like totally another religion. So you are studying um, that, and you are arguing that they are persecuted as a religion.
It's a complicated conversation. I mean, they're integrated. Historically, the
Mm-hmm.
elites, like do you remember Boutros Boutros Ghali, the UN Secretary General?
No.
So he was Egyptian,
Mm-hmm.
he was a Copt, and I think he was the first UN General Secretary who was Egyptian. So it's
Mm.
like, okay, but there's never going to be an Egyptian Christian president.
Mm.
That'd be really weird if that
Right. Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, it's changing with this president. That's a very thorny conversation, but things have
Hmm.
gotten, like, at least for Christians, for other minorities, that's not the same
Mm.
conversation. But before, the president used to need to authorize to open a new church, so that would take up to 10 years. And
Mm.
if you wanted to make any kind of fix, it was really politicized. In Egypt, you, like in several countries in the Middle East, you need to put your religion on your ID,
Mm.
and so if you are not either Christian or Muslim, or the weird 7 Jews that are still in Egypt, then it's really hard for you to get, like the Baha'is. It's another religious
Mm.
minority in Egypt. They won't get birth certificates. You can't get marriage certificates, and without, you can't get a job. So don't have a life,
So if you're not
basically.
religious, if you just want to live your life, you can in these
What a lot
places.
of people do, from there's like this expression, Muslim min al bida'a, like you're an ID Muslim, for instance.
Yeah.
So you, on paper, you'll be Muslim, but I have a lot of friends in Egypt who are
Oh,
atheists.
okay.
So it's like, but legally on paper, you have to
Say something.
say something.
Mm.
And a lot of the times it's just your name and your family. It's
Yeah.
like, well, are you a Michael? Then definitely you're Christian.
Mm.
Are you an Abdul? Are you an Muhammad? I mean, you're Muslim. So
Okay.
so
Makes
it
sense.
a lot of people won't split hairs on that. But
Stereotypical stuff here,
huh?
basically. Stereotypical stuff.
Uh,
Yeah.
and so it's funny. So I was in Egypt for about 5 years. Adventure of my life. I went up and down throughout Egypt. I think it's only Fayoum is the only place that I never got to see, out of like the bigger cities. But I went all around Egypt. It's a bit of a pilgrimage place, so it's traditional when you go to the Holy Land to get a tattoo, and I got myself
Oh,
the Coptic tattoo as well. So it has a very important place in my
do you want to show him?
the Coptic
Yeah.
tattoo. So it's got like the 12 points that represent the apostles, and
Yes.
it should be bluish because that represents a time, a particular time when Christians were persecuted, that they were forced to wear metal on their necks, so their skin would turn blue.
Mm.
Mine looks a little bit blackish for some reason, but it should have been blue. There was a 6-year-old girl before me, 6-month old baby girl before me, getting it done, and they held her down to do it. So there's this mountain in Egypt called the Muaddam, which, according to Coptic tradition, there was a Muslim caliphate that was threatening to kill the community, and he said, well, it says in the Bible that your faith can move mountains. If you move this mountain, then we'll leave you alone. So everyone fasted, and anyway, the tradition says that that mountain moved in Egypt. You can go there. It's in old Cairo. There, it's kind of it's a very interesting place because all the bottom of it is full of trash collectors,
Mm.
Christian trash collectors, and at the very top there's a church, and that's where I got it done. And there was a 6-month-old baby; they were holding her down, and it's like, if she can do it, I can totally
Yeah.
do it. But it's kind of like your passport to get into churches, or it was just like, it kind of got me also into the Church of the Holy Sepulchre when
Right.
I went to Jerusalem. They were I called a Jesuit priest who was my friend, a Mexican. It's like, hey, I'm here in Jerusalem, but I'm on my own. Is there a way that you can help me get into the Church of the Holy Sepulchre on Holy Saturday, which is practically impossible if you're not with a group. And he told me, nah, like, we this year, so the Catholic Church and the other rites have a different calendar, and sometimes they overlap. Other years they don't. That year it didn't overlap. And so when I was at the door, um, I got this weird Jewish man to help me, like, show me around. It's really hard. That's a complete long story of how I managed to get to the church. But at the door, there were some priests like selecting. If you ever go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, it's divided into several sects. So you've got the Armenians, the Latins, which are the Roman Catholic Church, the Coptic Church. Funnily enough, because they used to fight so much, a Muslim family is the one that keeps the door to the church, which is kind of ironic. Anyway, at the door, it's very divided, and when they
Mm.
were at the door, it's like, who are you going with? And I'm like, oh. Anakipteia, like I'm Coptic. I
Mm.
lied, sorry, but yeah, I just really wanted to go into the church, and so it's been actually
It's been helpful
it's
for
been
you. It's been
helpful.
a
It's
key
been
to.
an investment. It's a reminder and it's a vow for me, but and it's kind of like that connection. When I still used to share things on Facebook, I shared a quote the day that I left Egypt. It said, "You'll never be home again. That's the price that you pay when you love several people on different sides of the world."
Mm.
And I do have friends that are really close to my heart that are still in Egypt, but it was rough. Like I almost got raped at the border between Israel and Egypt on my way back. I was stripped at the airport in on my way to Jerusalem, and the Israeli police took my money away at the airport, and like they took everything. It's like they see my passport. You have stamps of 5 different Arab countries, and you're Mexican. Like, what are you doing trying to get into Israel by land? And so I was a bit moneyless. And then in Jerusalem, also the ATM swallowed my card, so I didn't have money. So on the way back, I barely made it. I got a bus and I barely made it back to the border, and I met an Egyptian man. He was on the bus and so I remember when I was in the border in Iliad that there was like a coffee shop where that's like a resort, and there was a coffee shop there that was open all night. So I said, you know what? The bus to go back to Cairo is not until 9 a.m. I don't have a place to sleep. I'll pull an all nighter at the cafe and then just get on the bus and sleep on my way back to
Mm.
Cairo. And while I was there at the cafe, they told me, oh no, they closed the cafe at 4 a.m. So you're going to have to find somewhere to stay between 4 a.m. and 9
Mm-hmm.
a.m. And at the cafe, all of a sudden, a bus drives in, and this guy comes in, and he's like, "Oh, Malik was his name, Angel, ironically in Arabic." And he comes in and he tells me, "Oh, you're Christian, sister. We have the same baptism." And like he fed me. I hadn't eaten in 2 days because I didn't really have money, and he like shared some rice with me, and it's like, "Don't worry, I'm the driver of the bus. I'll let you like you can sleep in the bus. I have friends here in the village, so I can sleep elsewhere, and you can stay in the bus, and in the morning we'll drive you to Cairo, so don't worry." And I was like, oh, okay. And he parked the bus right in front of the police station, so it was lit, like it seemed pretty legit. And then a few hours later he comes into the bus, and he it was like a big passenger bus, and I hear him speaking from the back of the bus, and he gave me Egyptians love giving nicknames, like if your name, so well, no, it wouldn't work with your name. So Carol would be, they would call me like Coco, so they would get my name and just repeat
Mm-hmm.
it in a consonant. And he gave me a nickname, and he was like, hey, the last thing I remember is that he said, how do you say, he was starting to like speak about romance and stuff like that, and that he had a house and a beach nearby and whatever. Well, he was saying I was just like trying to look. I wanted to get the pouch with my passport and the little money that I had for the ticket and the money, and I was trying to make sure that the door was open. And it's like, how am I going to escape this bus? And it was a big passenger bus, but the last thing I remember is that he said, how do you say kiss in your language? And I heard his zipper go down and his pants go down. And at that point I was like, no, this is the time that I like run and I have to scream. And I think as a woman, whenever I've been in difficult situations, you're always like, first I go into denial. It's like, wait, is this person actually attacking me, or like
Mm,
am I actually in danger? And then the other big conflict that goes in my mind is like, okay, how do I get out of this safely without escalating it or making it worse?
mm,
So it's like, okay, how do I get out of this bus? And that was my cue to like just make it for the door. There was a military base, like about 500 meters away, so I just ran in the dark to the beach, until I found the military, and they were really nice. They fed me. I had been doing the Coptic fast, which is pretty much a vegan diet for
mm.
55 days, and they gave me chocolate and they gave me croissants and they helped me get back to the bus to the guy, and the guy was gone. The bus was still there, but the guy was gone, so I got
Mm.
the rest of my stuff from the bus. Um, and
Quick question before I forget, and then you
sure.
can carry on. What happened to the rest of the money that the police did they actually steal it from you? Did they
Yeah,
not
so
give it
I was
back?
strip searched. I found a girl. So this is my issue. I said I'm gonna go from Cairo to Jerusalem by land,
Yeah.
and when the problem is that it was Easter and everything was closed, so I was gonna take a bus. And when I arrive at Iliad, my plans were pretty much not going to happen because there
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a bus. So I stayed in a hostel. I found an Argentinian guy, pretty fun, and he told me, now the only way that you're going to make it to Jerusalem now is by plane. So
Mm.
I met another girl, an Israeli girl, and she was like, hey, I've had a terrible time. Like, I just broke up with my boyfriend. I'm pregnant. I need to like get back to Tel Aviv. Why don't we go on the plane together? And so I bought the ticket for me and for her because I had a card, and she gave me the money in cash. So I had
Sure.
sure money. But then I get at the airport, they start interrogating me. She goes on, well, but they strip searched me. They took all my properties away, even in the airplane. It was a really humiliating experience.
But why?
Israelis just feel in fear. They live in fear. And so if you ever go to Israel, like, they're going to strip search you in every single corner. I think that's kind of what happens when you steal land.
Mm.
Like,
Is it because you were not an Israeli person?
no, that's like life in Israel. You'll see
Mm.
people with guns everywhere. Like,
Mm.
it's a very militarized. It's an occupying power, so obviously they live in a constant state of war.
Right.
So
Okay.
if you go to an airport, everything, you're going to be, I didn't expect that level of like, they strip searched me, they took everything away. My belongings were the very last thing to come out in the box, in a box in Tel Aviv, and not everything was there, including my money. So I was about almost $1,000 short, which was basically my travel
And did
budget.
you not question that?
What do? You're gonna
I know.
complain against the Israeli
No,
police
no, I
that the
know.
Israeli
I'm just trying to understand
yeah,
what
yeah,
you
but
did.
like,
That's
what do
all.
you do? Like, you
Yeah,
complain, and then what? And so the
I
girl that I
understand.
was with, she was really kind. She and her stepdad drove me to the bus station, and it's like, this is the problem with Israel is that a lot of things are just in Hebrew. So it's, you'll say,
Mm.
"Oh, I'll get by," and it's like, no, like everything is in Hebrew. I read Arabic, but Hebrew is very. It sounds similar to Arabic, but the reading bit is
Mm.
hard. And so she left me in a bus, and it's like, this bus will take you to Jerusalem, and then you'll figure things out
Mm.
on your own. So that was a. So by the time another time I got held down at gunpoint in a church, I thought this was a good. I'm belying myself, I'm contradicting myself. But another time, 2017 was a particularly cruel year for Christians in Egypt. There was a ton of bomb explosions, a lot of terrorist attacks.
I
So
remember that actually. Yes.
people lived in fear. And a friend invited me to a wedding. He organized a bus because the wedding was about an hour away from Cairo, and told him, you know what, I have to work until late. I know how to move around Egypt. I'll get there. So I got the bus. I arrived at the village, and when I get to the village, they're like, hey, no, 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 you don't look from around here. What do you want here? And I had my work laptop with me because I just came back from the office. They like opened my bag. They threw everything on the floor. It's like, oh, my work laptop. don't do that. And it wasn't that not only that they pretty much destroyed my work laptop, but all of a sudden everybody was like, the mob just started, hey, what do you want here? And so I was like, can you like stop doing that? And then they threw me to the floor and they kept me at gunpoint. It's like, what do you want from here? And you're not moving from here until the national security gets here. And they, I don't know why Egyptians are really threatened by embassies. And it's like, but you're gonna hear from my embassy. And anyway, they finally got some police guy. It wasn't the national security, just some random police, and it's like, let her go, like she's not doing anything, but the damage was already done. And it's like, oh, we're so sorry. That they thought I was just like a random imposter
Yeah.
putting on a tattoo to try to do some kind of terrorist
Yeah,
attack.
I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
And I call my friend. And it's like, you know what? I'm not sure. I've made it to the wedding. Like they won't let me in the church. And it's like, oh, I forgot to tell you. I posted on Facebook that the wedding is going to be at a different church, and so it's another church at the end of the road. And it's like, fuck's sake. I went through all of that for
Yeah.
nothing. And yeah, it wasn't like the funnest party after that, but I was just fed up. Like I love my Egyptian friends, and then at one point I got sick and I had like half of my face paralyzed, and my closest friends, it was the summer, so they were all away.
Mm.
And I remember trying to pick up a taxi, but everything was dizzy. Like I had a big ear infection that was blocking my face, and so I dragged myself to a hospital, and the nurses were just making fun of my accent. And then obviously there's the foreign tax, so whenever they see that you're not, it happens in a lot of countries, there's a price for locals and then there's a price for foreigners. And I remember some nurses making fun of me and of my accent. And I was like, you know what, I can barely like see straight enough to raise my hand to get a taxi. I dragged myself to another Coptic hospital, and actually that's where I got some help. And
Mm.
I think those little things started building up, and I was like, you know what, I don't feel safe here. There's also a ton of sexual harassment in Egypt, and I got sexually harassed several times there. So it's like, you know what, I'm fed up. Like this is getting to my nerves. Like I need to go to a place that's safe and that there's some kind of civilization. So it's like, oh, let's go to Europe. And that's when I decided to do my PhD here.
Mm.
And insanely expensive. So it took me 2 years to get partial funding. Like it does take a leg and a limb and an eye. Um, and I think that's why it's so upsetting that the UK government is trying to crack down on foreign students. And I think, I'm not sure if that was passed, but that they weren't going to allow students to come in with financial dependence
Mm.
anymore. It's like, I pay 3 times what a home student pays. It's like and I mean, not just me, like
Yeah.
international students, we're the ones bringing a ton of money for your universities. So instead of going at us at a blanket level, like why don't you actually tackle the bad apples that are abusing the system, instead of shooting your leg in the foot and going against people who are bringing high value and high levels of
Yeah.
expertise to your country. And we're like just throwing in a ton of money. Like we had to move away from Oxford because it's just insane how expensive
Mm-hmm.
property and accommodation is there. But people, like foreigners, come and they pay for it all the time because they come in, and they're probably not going to make a life there anyway. So
Yeah.
so there's a ton of money coming in from foreign students. And then it's like, yeah, you need to have a bit of a more nuanced solution to abuses in immigration
Yeah.
than just attacking all international students. And that's kind of how I'm here now.
Mm.
In a very long story short.
No, it's great. I just wondered why did you choose the UK and, for example, not France or
I
Spain? Is it because of
did.
Oxford University?
Well, one of my reasons was that I wanted to study in one of the best universities in the world. And obviously, Mexico doesn't pay great money. It's really hard, I think, to get a scholarship in the humanities being Mexican.
Mm.
That's really hard. I got about 40% funding from the Mexican government, and I still needed to find other solutions for the rest. So they will only pay money if you can guarantee that it's one of the best universities. So that was a big reason for Oxford. I was looking into other schools. I kind of wanted to revive my French, so I was looking at Switzerland and other places. But the universities that were the most welcoming were actually, I got accepted in 4 universities here. I applied to 8 different
Right.
ones and
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
rejected in the other ones, but I got a ton of, so it was more about the actual success rate of my applications
Yeah.
here. I didn't really want to come here because I thought I already spoke English, but I think my husband has sent me twice to Specsavers to get my ears checked. I don't know if that's just a married people thing, but we're always like, what, and so yeah, I used to think I understood English, and then I don't know, there's something,
It's a different
yeah,
English
it's
from
a,
the American English,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So it's like, oh, you're kind of like learning a new language, and I have to. Now I'm not mom, I'm mum, and you don't use the elevator and the lift, and
Yeah.
but even like when things are connected, it's kind of
Yeah.
hard.
And you do drink water. You drink water.
Yeah, I drink water and use the computer, and my husband does
And
something
you
else.
wear a sweater and not a jumper,
A
right?
jumper and all those things. So I thought I spoke English until I got here, and and that was okay. It facilitates things a
Yeah.
lot more. I think a big shock for me has been that, especially, I didn't expect that in Swindon, but in Oxford, for my first year and a half that I lived there, I didn't really know any British people. And it's like I came to the UK, and that's something that I find really shocking in the UK, is that you can go to places and there aren't any British people. Oxford is a very simple place because a lot of foreign
Yeah.
postgrads. I think the year that I got here, it was the first time that there were more postgraduate students than undergrads in Oxford. So we're the ones doing research. We're the ones bringing a lot of money. So
Yeah.
it makes sense. But
How long have you been here in the UK?
5, 6 years.
Okay. When do you think you'll finish your PhD studies?
It's not that when I think, I only have 5 months left. So I'm
Okay.
on like full power. I took a year off when my mom died. Then I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, so I
Oh
also
no.
took some time off, and then I had a year of, I thought I was gonna white knuckle through my first year of motherhood. Nah, I totally had to take maternity
Of
leave.
course.
So it was a 3 year degree. Now it's gone almost for 6, but I don't have any more opportunities to
Yeah.
extend. So,
You're gonna make it, yeah?
huh?
Yeah. Are you gonna make it,
I
yeah?
have to.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think there are so many people who have made sacrifices for me, including my mom. So I can't fail them. And it's
Sure.
like, yeah, it's like you're almost at the, I can see the finish line. It's like, just keep on running.
And what are you gonna be doing after then? Like once you get this degree, what is your
I have to be
plan for the
honest with
future?
you. There's two big issues. I would have loved to continue in academia, but one, the situation in the political situation in Egypt towards quantitative research is not welcoming. So I was supposed to be a year doing field work in Egypt. That's not possible. It's not really safe. So that kind of, I love studying about the Copts and about religion in Egypt. They say that you shouldn't speak about politics or religion, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna write about political theology. Like, but in reality, it's really hard to be in that field. And my other issue is that, well, there are three issues. Obviously, being a mom, it's like my baby's only gonna be this little once, so it's really hard for me to say like I want to keep on sacrificing time. I read a really weird statistic that by the time that your kids are 12 years old, you will have spent, at least in Western culture, you will have spent 80% of the time you will ever spend with them by the time they're 12.
Yeah.
So so it's like I want to to be there for my baby. And the other thing is that I'm absolutely disappointed with the state of Western academia right now. Like, it's so embedded with politics and ideology, and you can't have, like, instead of speaking about the truth, there that people are really oriented towards being activists, and so I'm not like it's important to have opinions, but I feel that there's a lot of pressure to have like a certain virtue signaling position, and it's like, oh, I have this amount of DEI sort of papers and this
Mm,
attitudes, and you feel like there's a big push, especially in the humanities, for scholars to be activists, financially it's also really rough. Like, it's really hard to make a living
mm,
in academia. So I'm also working right now. So
yeah,
I have a baby, I'm doing my PhD, and I have a part-time job, which I'm pretty happy with. We do a lot. I've worked in charities most of my professional life in the global south, but this is the first time that I am working in a charity that benefits, so we tackle UK poverty,
yeah,
and I like it because this is home for me now. So if I can make home a better place, it's a meaningful. I'm not necessarily using my skills or my degree, but I think I had this chat once with people in my faculty. It's like, we're not really here for the money. Like, if you're studying a PhD in the
mm,
humanities, you're not here to become butt rich. You're here
yeah,
because you're interested in pushing the boundaries of human understanding and learning more about your subject. But I didn't do a PhD to become rich.
yeah. I see what you mean. You're just interested in what
Yeah, I'm
you are
just really
studying.
passionate
Yeah,
about the subject. So that's kind of why I'm here.
yeah. So you said that you this is your home now. Is it because your kid and husband are here?
Yeah.
Like you said before. Yeah.
Yeah, we have thought about like maybe taking a few years to go to Mexico.
Hmm.
We're raising our baby polyglot,
Yeah.
so
Sure.
I speak to him in Spanish, Dad speaks to him in English or whatever he speaks to him, and we're teaching him Chinese.
Oh.
I think in a year or two I want to introduce Arabic, so at least he has like the five official UN languages,
Yeah.
and so we might want to go to Mexico, but both my husband and I have chronic diseases, and we depend on medication, so it's
Mm.
always like, are you going to have the conditions to be able to sustain your life.
Mm.
So that there are other layers. It's not just, I don't know how my parents, well, they didn't have a choice. Like, they would just grab the family and like,
Yeah.
let's relocate
It was a
relocate.
different time before it. Like I remember my family as well. Their decisions were made and they were done. I don't know. There weren't like too much talking, or maybe I was too little to understand. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just ignorant right now, and I'm like, oh, I believed it was like that, but it actually wasn't. But yeah. I wanted to talk to you about food because you said you.
Oh yeah, food.
I wanted to. Yeah, I wanted to hear about Mexican food, but you said you prefer American food. Let's. Here's the question. Actually, here's my question. Have you ever tried Italian food?
I think, because then there's like, I've tried American Italian food or
No.
Mexican Italian food, but I can't. No, you know what? There was this Italian girl in my class in Mexico.
Hmm.
They like her parent. She, I think she was born in Mexico, and her mom was like, they'd invite me and they'd make pasta, but that's as far as it went.
Do you remember which kind?
No,
Okay.
I
My
was
question
just
was
hungry.
gonna be, what's your favorite food? But obviously, you've already said that. You prefer American than.
Well, I do like Mexican food. I
Mm,
like anything with a tortilla, which is like
okay.
half of, no, it's not half. We have a hugely diverse food. I hate to say it, but I have a very big sweet tooth.
Me too.
Although I've been on keto for a long time, but I'll find my keto alternatives. But we have this huge heritage of Spanish and French bakery in
Hmm.
Mexico, and that is the end of me. Like, we'll have like conchas, which are like shells, and
Yeah.
like all the
With cream
pastries.
inside.
No, they're
No?
just they've got like this like powdery thing on top, and like anything baked. They're it's Mexican food, but it's quite evidently part of our Spanish heritage.
Uh, is are you talking about food that you would eat for dinner, lunch, or is it like a breakfasty thing?
You can have that for breakfast. A lot of people
Okay.
will have that kind of bread, pan dulce, so like sweet bread for.
Pane dolce in Italian. I
Yeah.
understand what you're trying to say because it's a Latin language. I
Yeah.
love that about Romanian, French,
The
Spanish. Yeah,
14
it's like
ones, yeah.
all together. But anyway, to go back to what you're talking
Food.
about, you're basically talking about croissants and other variations of it,
Bakery,
right?
yeah,
Bakery. If you go to Italy, I think you're gonna fall in love with it because we fill them with creams and
yeah. Yeah.
chocolate cream and like lemon cream and
There's this thing
custard
now in
stuff.
Mexico to try to do a lot of fusions.
Hmm.
So you'll find like they'll do conchas and they'll turn them into a muffin. So a
Hmm.
concha, you'll later fact check me. And there's like they're called shells in English, but they have like kind of the shape of a shell, but now they'll turn it into mantecadas, which are a muffin, and they'll call them manteconchas.
Hmm.
So it's like a fusion.
Yeah.
And then you'll see everything has Nutella now. So even
Hmm.
traditional pastries, we for the 6th of January, which is Epiphany. So
It's the same in Italy. You got Epiphany
uh-huh.
in
Of course,
Mexico.
we're a big Catholic
Yeah,
country.
of course.
So
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's a lot of our,
Yeah.
it's Mexican, but it's part of our mestizo culture that it's very mixed with Europeans. So we'll do like the Rosca de Reyes, which they put in a little baby hidden Jesus, and to represent the story of when they were running away
Uh
to
huh.
Egypt. And if you cut the bread and there's a, and you find a little baked doll inside, for the 2nd of February, which is the day of the Candelaria, which is an apparition of the Virgin Mary, you have to pay a tamal party, which is also one of my favorite Mexican foods, tamales. So tamales are, it's corn, so it's kind of the same dough that you use for tortillas, but you put inside whatever you can make them savory or sweet. I do mine a lot with chicken,
Mm.
or you can do them with pork. Um, I've done like my British hybrids for my husband, so
Yeah.
I'll do them with cheese
Okay.
inside, and so it's kind of like a boiled quesadilla that
Okay.
tastes really good. So it's like soft, but it's the same. And then you put it inside a corn husk, and you let it boil for like 3 or 4 hours, and it just like breaks. And yeah, the dough has a lot of lard,
Okay.
so it's like fatty and
Yeah, and
ton of flavor.
juicy. Yeah.
Uh-huh. The fusion ones that I do for my husband now are the Nutella ones, so we'll like slap.
Yeah.
Maybe Mexican grandmas might be like turning in their grave right now. It's like, don't do that with our
Yeah.
traditions, but they taste really good.
If they taste
Um,
good, I'm happy with it. I'm a bit jealous about Italian dishes being, but I understand that we live in 2025 now, almost 2026 in a few months, so it's fine. I let it slide for some dishes, but not for everything. I
that's
hate.
disrespect.
Yeah. Do you like? I hear a lot of Mexican, pretty much all of the Mexican people I've talked to, they hate Taco Bell.
Oh, tell me about it. Like we live in city center, and every time I walk by there, it's like,
Hmm.
grr. I do like we are pretty big on. There's a meme that I'll probably share it with you later. Like this is a taco, and these are chingaderas, which is like fucked up things. Like this is an actual. So you'll have like the meme with the two pictures of an actual soft Mexican taco, and
Yeah.
then the so that's what we call Tex-Mex, which we also did in my parents' restaurant in the
Uh
US.
huh.
So you have the Mexican, or the what the white people like as Mexican
Yeah.
food, and then you have the actual thing that Mexicans will eat. What I find really funny, especially in Egypt, I've also been in Qatar, I've been around the Gulf. And something that I find a little bit heartwarming. I used to hate Tex-Mex food. It's like, oh, this is an insult to our traditions.
Hmm.
But whenever I travel to the Middle East or places that are a lot farther away from Mexico, I used to say farther away from home, but after my mom died, Mexico doesn't really feel like home that much. And And whenever I go to those places, there are a lot of Mexican restaurants, and they're not there because there's a huge Mexican population, but it's the Americans that it's like, hey, I need my tacos, I need my, and so I kind of find that really heartwarming that it's like Americans who will be pushing for
Yeah.
and advocating for our our food
It's weird,
elsewhere.
right?
Not exactly like real Mexican food, but it's like, oh, you tried,
Yeah.
and so you'll go around, like if you go to Tesco or Sainsbury's, you will find Mexican food that, and you know that it's not there because there's a huge Mexican population
Yeah.
demanding that. It's there for a white palate, and but it's okay.
When I meet people that owns Italian restaurants here, and I talk to them and I ask them, how do you do this dish? Because it's in your menu. Why did you tweak it that way? It's not the right recipe, isn't? I want to open a bracket here. I say recipe, but Italian cuisine, I think,
It's
it's
an
not
art.
like it can be a set thing, but there's like manuality, like you can put something,
It's an art.
different. It's not, yeah, right. So when I say, recipe, it's not like,
A formula and a
yes,
science.
exactly.
Yeah.
But they say we do that because otherwise people from here, they wouldn't eat it as much because they think that that's the actual dish. For example, carbonara with cream. Cream doesn't go on carbonara. You do
Okay.
it with eggs and things like that. But you know what I mean? They do that because here is known with cream, and you know what I mean? So
Even McDonald's
I
does that. Like they need to assimilate. I remember when I went to the Middle East, I was shocked with KFC because they had rice, and
oh yeah, because yeah,
it's like, oh, well, chicken with rice, and
yeah,
it's like, well, it makes sense, but I had never seen rice in a
yeah,
KFC until
yeah,
so it's like, okay, you, and McDonald's does that. I think in
yeah.
India you don't have like a lot of meat or
McDonald's in Italy is slightly different from here too, so I understand. Another question for you. Let's leave food aside, even though it's interesting.
wait, no, I was gonna tell you about carnitas, but
Oh, sorry, go on.
my actual, it wasn't my favorite food, but now I've been thinking about this. I would walk from Mexico to eat carnitas. I think it's probably some kind of Spanish influence sort of thing there, but it's a whatchamacallit, it's deep fried pork,
Uh huh.
caramelized deep fried fork pork, and it's just like fried for hours and hours in the lard, and then you put it in a soft tortilla,
Uh
and then
huh.
you can put like cilantro and, well, coriander and onion and lime, and that's like the best taco ever.
You lost me at coriander there.
Well, don't to put on the coriander. What the other option is to slap some refried beans. That would work really well for
Oh.
me. Or just the meat. Like the meat is like soft. When my mom died, so in Mexico you'll normally have like the wedding and then the after wedding. So my honeymoon after wedding was my mom's funeral, but that night my dad made carnitas, and that was the
Hmm.
first time in 13 years that I had meat again. And it's just, I don't know, like those meals that will stay forever in your
Yeah.
heart and palate. And so I really need to go back to Mexico to,
Just to have that.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's like that flavor is just there in my mouth and my heart. So carnitas, great tacos. That I think there's some places in London that do tacos of carnitas, but
Yeah.
you need to go to like
Yeah.
the core of Mexico. Anyway, we
Obviously.
can move away
No.
from
Yeah.
food, but that's a commercial that I felt I need to
No,
make,
this is
like
good. It's good.
a carnitas evangelist.
Every time
Um,
I want to try something different, I just go back to the episode and see what people talk about. I've got Indian food now, I've got Mexican, I've got Portuguese. So I'm set because I'm a big foodie, and
yeah,
so
carnitas.
it's good. I wanted to ask you how you came to know of jiu-jitsu and how you started jiu-jitsu, because you're a blue belt now. And
Uh,
why
so
do you do
I don't know. I took a break with my pregnancy, so
Yeah, of course.
it's
But
like feeling like a white belt
no, but
again.
you still
But
you
yeah,
earned it because you put the time and effort
uh,
to it, and you are still coming after pregnancy and after having a
and
baby. So you
And
know,
breastfeeding is great for like watching, like I'll binge on tutorials. I think YouTube thinks that I'm a Muslim man with dysfunction, with erectile dysfunction, because it used to give me all the ads because I spent so much time like watching videos about the Middle East and about jujitsu. So
yeah.
it like all the algorithm thinks that I'm a man. I used to do fencing. I've always kind of enjoyed some kind of. I used to be a dancer most of my life,
Hmm.
And I used to kind of enjoy martial arts, but I didn't really get into them until I did fencing in university. Not like putting on fences, but
I
sword
know
fight.
what you
Yeah,
mean.
yeah.
I know what
Some
you
people like
mean. Yeah, yeah.
fencing, and I wasn't good at it, but I used to enjoy it a lot. And then I used to do Hawaiian and belly dance, and we had our exhibitions, and I also did capoeira for about 6 or 7 years. And I remember that sometimes the jiu-jitsu guys would, or some of the capoeira guys would do their little jiu-jitsu exhibitions, and I was like, what kind of Brazilian Kama Sutra is that? Like, that's gross. Like, get off of each other. It was like too much contact. And I have those vague memories in my mind of jiu-jitsu. And now that I look back at it, it's like I regret not starting sooner, but it was there. It was like I knew of its existence, but I actually despised it a bit. Then fast forward, I go to Egypt, all of this happens, and my mom would always pray. It's like, get into some kind of like self-defense class, like I can't protect you, and she would pray for me, and that's all I can do. But get into some kind of self-defense classes. It's like, I'm okay, mom. Like I there was a point, there was a Ramadan that said, you know what, it's Ramadan, everybody's playing nice. Life in the Middle East normally extends after hours during Ramadan because everybody's so exhausted during the day. So, like shops are open longer. So I used to stay at work until late, and would. Which I thought people were behaving better. Anyway, I got groped twice that Ramadan, I remember, and after that I would always carry scissors or something pointy in my bag, in my pocket, just in case there was like a season that I wouldn't leave home without something
Yeah.
pointy in my bag. And it's like, I'm ready, like bring it
Let's
on.
go.
and and so that was for a while, but so I kind of like drifted on. I came here, I lived in Oxford, that was okay, and then I met my husband and we moved to Swindon because he worked here and it was just cheaper to live here. But I still needed to come back and forth from Oxford and Swindon, and several times I had, oh, stagecoach, if I had like a pound for every time that something weird happened at me on stagecoach. Like once this guy got choked because of me. Well, he was defending me, and I felt so frustrated that there was this drunk guy who was like really erratic. I have to say, I'm kind of surprised with the levels of substance abuse in this country. Like we have a ton of issues with drunk abuse, like drunkies and
Yeah,
junkies.
and druggies.
We
Yeah, I
live in
know.
city center,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
it's just terrible. But
Also,
before,
I just want to open a bracket. It's no stagecoach fault for these people being there. Obviously,
oh, of course not.
yeah.
Sorry, no,
No, no,
I'm
it's
not trashing
fine.
them,
No,
but
no, no,
it's
it's
just been
fine.
the
It's
situation.
yeah, it just
It's the
happens.
audience that they're targeting as
Yeah.
well. But like I have found, like if you want to speak about things that they can work on, I have found like bottles of alcohol rolling, used condoms on the bus. So it's not, it's their fault that it's there,
Yeah.
but there could be a little bit more maintenance.
Yeah.
But it's a great service.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
Like it used to get me from Oxford back and
Yeah.
forth when I still had like face to face activities in Oxford. Anyway, so I remember that guy getting choked and then people following to my flat, and I just didn't feel safe. And my mom was dead by then, but I remembered her voice like telling me like, you need to learn how to protect yourself. And it's like, you know what, okay, let's do that. And I didn't feel safe, so I said, you know what, let's try Krav Maga, which was, now that I look at it, it was a terrible idea. Like I really enjoyed it. We played a lot with knives. I feel it's a little bit too choreographed. So, and the other thing that I don't like about Krav Maga is that you really can't spar at a realistic level.
Yeah.
Like there's always like a lot of
Yeah.
and sound effects, and it's got good intentions, but in practical terms, I really, if I ever try to pressure test something, it's really hard. And then I had this really bully assistant coach once that punched me in the jaw, and I'm like, he was playing with me, and he hurt me, and I was like, nah. Like I used to always come back with bruises. It's like, fine, we're doing knife work, so that's okay. And I was also doing boxing at the same time, And then boxing seemed like a lot, it seemed safer, but you really can't upscale to a realistic scenario, and you can't pressure
Mm.
test it that much. And if I did get hurt in Krav Maga, it wasn't like a good payoff. And then there was this girl who came in who used to do jujitsu. So she used to tell me about jujitsu, and I used to help her with Krav Maga.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of became this sort of jujitsu evangelist for me. And back in the day, our dojo was still in city
Yeah.
center, 600
Yeah.
meters away from my house. So it's like, this is doable.
Yeah.
So I grabbed on the courage and it's like, no, I'm gonna give jujitsu a try. I was miserable the first, like any beginner,
Yeah.
the first months, but then it became an addiction, and it's
Yeah.
like, oh, I need to binge watch every single tutorial, and it's like, no, how do you get out of this position? And then I think it's important to have a ground game, but I also believe that if you want to realistically use it for self-defense, you have to have a striking game. So
100%.
I also cross trained Muay Thai until I was 42 weeks pregnant.
Yeah.
That got to a point that in jiu-jitsu, I felt like a turtle who's been thrown upside down with the belly, like I can't, or like a cockroach, I can't get up. So it was really hard. I would just go to say hi to
I
our
remember
coach
you coming to just to watch,
and
and yeah, I
squats,
remember. Yeah.
and it was like miserable, but where I could still really go, probably like 70% was in Muay Thai. So I
Mm.
really enjoyed, it's like I'm on my feet, maybe I can't hold the pads for other people,
Yeah.
but I can totally kick, I can totally punch. So that kept me healthy, like far.
Yeah.
And my baby didn't want to come out, like normal babies come out at 37, 38
Yeah.
weeks. This one went up to 42, and
Oh.
he was an emergency
Oh.
C-section.
Okay.
Like he did not want to come out, so we had to take him out by force.
Mm.
So I still had a lot of time to do
Yeah.
jujitsu. Sorry, to do Muay Thai, not jujitsu. I just couldn't roll over. It's really hard to train
I
when you're
remember
pregnant.
you coming just squatting and just doing
Yeah, it's like
exercises with Bob, the little.
Bob. Oh, yeah, he was.
For people who don't know, Bob is a old punching bag. I don't know if you were using a punching bag or the actual
The
dummy.
dummy. I used
You
both
use
of
the,
them.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
they
we
were my
have a
friends.
few. There's Bob, which is the old punching bag, and then there's like a normal dummy. I prefer Bob. He's got the shape as well of how many neon bellies he had to
He's
to
great
go.
for like flow rolling.
Yeah.
Bob gives you that speed that you need to
Yeah.
go, and good positioning. Even for some like guard passes, he's
Mm.
good. But I like the dummy for any other kind of drills. Like when some people I think were afraid of rolling with me when I was pregnant, and so it was like, you know what, like let's keep on learning things, but you need an arm, you need a
Yeah.
leg, so the dummy does help a little
There
bit.
was a dummy with a gi on as well, so you could grab the
Yeah,
lapel or the sleeve, which was great. Yeah.
it's terrible because you'll
Yeah.
look at tutorials and people will make it look, that's what I hate about
Mm.
binging on BJJ tutorials. You'll watch them and people make it look so easy, and then
Yeah.
you're there and it's like getting the muscle memory and the timing, the weight. It's a completely different skill.
But also there's like different body types as well, and some
What
people
works
will
with
manage.
one
Yeah.
person won't work with another body type.
Exactly.
And so I'd say Bob, but also
Yeah.
the dummy.
100%. We can carry on for one more question,
Okay.
and then we'll have to say goodbye.
Okay.
But I wanted to know you, because you have, you as a first person, you have experienced this. We know now in the UK they are talking a lot about illegal immigrants and illegal immigration, and obviously with the whole Brexit thing
Changed.
is changed. A lot has changed. What are your opinions about immigration, especially here in the UK?
You're looking for sound bites that will make it hard for me to get employed later down the
No,
line.
don't have to say anything that is
No, no,
risking
no.
your career. I just want to know what you think about it. Like,
I've been on both sides of being an illegal. So you want my opinion on any kind of migration or illegal immigration? Because that's the one that brings more,
Maybe both, but more focused on what's happening here in the UK right now.
and
Because
especially in Swindon. So I've been on both sides as an illegal immigrant and a legal immigrant. As an illegal immigrant, I have a lot of empathy for people who are trying to look for a better life for their families. Like my dad crossed the desert twice in Mexico, the Rio Grande, the Rio Bravo, and he put his life to risk, and then he took us there. So I know that there are a lot of sacrifices. Even if you're not an illegal immigrant, even if you're just a normal expat, there's always that longing for back home, especially for those who are refugees who it was not their choice to leave and might not have an option to go back to a home. So I have a ton of not sympathy, I have empathy because I've been in that situation. My problem now as a legal immigrant is that I don't want to scapegoat immigrants, but I do feel there's a lot of pressure on services. And as a taxpayer in the UK, and I'll tell you about something that happened to me, so like to my baby. So with the summer, his eczema has gotten really bad. I didn't know it was eczema. It was just like a terrible rash. And for instance, like I've been trying to look for a GP. We're in city center in Whalebridge, which is really oversaturated. And no, it's like you call at 8 a.m. and they tell you over and over, we don't have any appointments. And have you ever watched The Handmaid's Tale?
no.
No, and like the far left in the U.S. will say that they're all trying to turn us into this dystopic future where women are sexual slaves. Anyway, a friend, for those who have watched the series, because it's great, they'll know that kids are a priority for that world. And a friend was telling me, well, if we lived in Gilead, at least your baby would have medical attention. So like we've called the GP twice and it's like, no, we don't have any appointments for today. Maybe I can get you one in 2 weeks. It's like in 2 weeks, like that thing's gonna be a lot worse. So you have to go through the pharmacy. I do feel there's a lot of pressure on services. As a taxpayer, I live right across from a hotel that is full of refugees, and I'm glad that they get support. I do think that there needs to be a reform for the amount of waiting time that they spend. A lot of countries have managed to find ways to make refugees productive while they're waiting for their applications, and it just helps a lot better with integration rather than paying a whole year or longer for someone not to work. Like I can't imagine myself being a refugee and just being a prisoner in a hotel for it. So it's heavy on the taxpayer, it's heavy on the migrants. If I have to be honest, I was almost made homeless about a month ago, and I have a stamp in my passport that says, in my visa that says that I cannot access public funds. So it's like I'm a mom of a British citizen, and yet I can't access public funds. And then I'm looking at the building outside my window, which is full of people that are they're not in the best, like they don't receive a great stipend. I think they receive like £8 or £9 a week or something miserable like that, but they've got accommodation and they've got a plate and they've got food. And it's like, oh well, why are they getting all those benefits, but I, as a person who's paying taxes and who has legitimate reasons to stay in that country, don't have access to public funds? So I think it does kind of breed a little bit of resentment. It might be a strong word, but it does present difficult situations. Ultimately, I don't want to scapegoat immigrants. I think there was once a demonstration in London that I saw people complaining. I think it was about Palestine or something like that, and the sign said, "We are here because you went there first." And the UK has a huge colonial history, and a lot of the people that are coming are from countries where the UK was had an imperialist hold before. So I don't think it's easy just to scapegoat immigrants or to completely blame the UK. But a part of me kind of wished that the UK was the one that if I had to choose who invaded Mexico, I would have a lot better preferred that it had been England than Spain, like looking back, because the British had a reputation of being great administrators. Like they wouldn't really just come and impose their culture, but they were there to take away resources and
Mm-hmm.
administrate. And I'm kind of disappointed. I think that's been a huge cultural shock for me because this was a promised land of civilization, and now I just look at an empire that's in decline, and so I'm rooting for the UK. This is my home now, but I do see, I look around and there's a lot of stuff that needs to be fixed. You guys, we need to get our act together, I think, and so I don't think poor administration is not just because there's a saturated and over demand, that there needs to be better administration. Not sure how to solve that. That's above my pay grade, but that's kind of how I see
Yeah, how you feel about
the
it.
dilemma.
And what do you feel about the people that say that the majority of crimes, especially to rape and things like that, are being made by these people that are looking like they are asylum seekers and they are staying in the hotel, they've got nothing to do, and there's like voices, videos going around. They say that majority of these crimes are made by these people.
It
They haven't got an ID. They're like they're no one to this country yet, but yet they do go and do this kind of stuff.
I don't have the I'm ultimately, despite being a religious person and someone in the humanities, I am a numbers person, so I don't have the actual numeric
Mm.
evidence. Like I would like to see actual research and numbers to back that out. What I will point out, there is a cultural argument to be made. There are, and that's something that I was really shocked when I first arrived in the UK. Sometimes I'm in the playground with my baby, and I look around and it's like my baby's a muggle. He's half Mexican, half British, but I think he's the only baby sometimes from English heritage in the playground. So
Mm.
I think Swindon is a place where I think one out of every five people is an immigrant, was born outside. So there's a big community. There are some people who will integrate better, and then there is a very true cultural argument to make that there are people who will not integrate. And I can tell you, even I mean, I've had that experience with the Goan community here. It's like, yeah, they have a common Christian heritage, but they'll be very, some of them I've seen, they're very insular and they'll just stay in their cultural bubbles. And I know it provides safety, and you'll see that even with some of the Brazilians, they'll just stay with the Brazilians, and then but they'll still integrate. And you see that with some of the several Muslim communities, they'll like create their little bubbles and their little Bangladesh and their little Pakistan. So I'm not. It's good to have that diversity, but I do feel that that multiculturalism fails when people go back into their silos and back, and you see that there are some cultures that are more prone to do that. I mean, I don't mean to point names,
No,
but
no, it's
we've
fine. Yeah.
seen that with the whole what was the grooming gangs
Mm.
scandal. It's like, oh well, there was a very like a systemic point of view that led to that, and if you add on top of that the social issues, then that is a recipe or a formula for disaster. And I think we're doing that also with the refugees that are here. It's like a lot of them don't speak the language.
Yeah.
They're not giving, for a year or more, they're not giving opportunities to have a meaningful life, and yet so they're excluded, but you want them to integrate.
Mm.
It's a really complicated balancing act to make, but I think those are the dangers of multiculturalism. Like you either fully you allow people to come in completely as they are,
But you
but you,
can't do that without any background check, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
for even for my job, which is the stupidest job in the world, I had to go through a background check. You, otherwise, I couldn't
What
work.
do you do?
I'm a delivery driver,
Okay.
so even for that, because I can go near schools, I can, you know what I mean? I can deliver to schools as well. I had to go through that. And it's fair enough. I like that of the UK, that making sure that people have the right to work because of security reasons as well. So I don't think they can. I don't think you could just put everyone in the work cycle straight away as soon as they get here. They have to check the background. But if someone has no background registered, like, who are you? Where you come from? Like, it's right that they have to wait until they get the right documents to be able to work. But in the meantime, the question is, what do they do?
It's not
Like,
about just getting the right documents. You actually have to make the case that they are actual refugees and not just economic migrants.
yeah,
So, or that they're here for the right reasons.
that's another
So that,
story as
yeah, yeah,
well.
yeah.
Yeah,
So it's not just about the background checks, but it's like, are you actually a refugee?
yeah.
I get that, but yeah, I think or putting them, for instance, something that you're putting them in a bubble in a hotel and they're untouchable. I remember, like, there's a hotel across from where we live, and one time I needed to spend the night somewhere else that wasn't my flat. It's like, I can't go to this hotel because it's completely
Yeah,
secluded, and these people live in their bubble and they transfer them in the middle of the night so nobody knows
yeah,
that and it's like, no, like, put them in buildings of flats with several people, make them integrate into the
yeah. But would
community.
these people want them? For example, I don't think that everyone would feel safe having people that have no background checked anyway, have not checked background in the same block of flats. Does it make sense? For example, if you have a 12-year-old daughter, right? Would you want all these illegal immigrants in the same block of flats as you? Does it make sense? I think
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
this
yeah.
argument as
I'm
well.
telling, because we have a lot of issues with
Yeah.
security, but and that's something else that I wanted to point out. Like, ironically, the people that create the most social disturbances where I live in city center, they're not immigrants. They're white drug
Oh,
abusing
100%.
people, like British. So it's like, I really don't mind that much the people that are in the hotel in front, because they're out of. I carry a worry about the people destroying our doors,
Yeah.
destroying our like, leaving blood and condoms and syringes around
Yeah.
the building, like,
That is a very big problem as well,
all
especially
around
in
city
town center.
center.
Yeah.
Like, they get their mattresses and they start occupying
Yeah.
different places. So I think that's a lot,
Mm.
a real larger issue that needs to be addressed, at least in the community that's relevant
Yeah.
for us. Having them, I'm not completely sure. There must be a better way. Maybe not integrating them. I understand I see your point of not bringing them into a block of flats. Maybe a house. Like, you get a house with several bedrooms.
Whose house?
I don't know, but the longer though, here's the thing. Like, if they don't pass their application, they will be sent
Yeah.
or deported anyway. But if they do, you're already giving them like a head start to be in some kind of neighborhood. But I do feel that we're kind of institutionalizing refugees into like a bubble, or it kind of feels like a little prison. Like,
I know what you mean.
it's like living next to a prison. There must be a bigger solution. Again, it's above my pay grade, but I think what I like doing sometimes is looking outside of the UK, how other countries have solved this, because we're not the
Yeah.
only ones. So I think you have two routes. You either have attempt multiculturalism, which is, I think, an experiment that has failed in several countries, or you just have closed
Yeah.
countries and
Like
you.
Poland. Poland doesn't have refugees of that kind. Um,
I don't believe that the UK can do that, though. Like, we have so much skin in the game, and like, the whole creation of Palestine and
yeah.
Israel, like, that was whole Balfour Declaration there. So you can't say, well,
Yeah.
it's none of my business.
Yeah. Unless they revolutionize everything and they'd be like, nope, everyone home. Like, we close the borders, but what would it take? And is it gonna be good for the country. Who knows? But yeah.
I just think that like ultimately, and I think that's my attitude whenever I've been a pilgrim, and I think the my guiding principle everywhere is that not to quote your country, but when you're in Rome, do as the Romans, I think is the
Yeah.
phrase.
I think cut short is like when in Rome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. When in Rome, so I think always when I've been in Cairo, or when I've been in the U.S., or when I've been in Swindon, I try to assimilate. And if
Yeah.
we have those both attitudes, it's like we'll welcome you, and I'll also try my best to assimilate and
Yeah.
to. You might not be English, but if you can be as British as you can, like if there's that agreement, but yeah, there's so much not resentment, but yeah, there's like there are people that I think that are here that don't want to be here, and I think that's the hardest segment to deal with.
Yeah.
I've seen beautiful people that have enriched to this country that say, you know what, I'll bring the best part of myself, and I'll integrate, and I'll bring my expertise, and I might be Italian, or I might be Mexican or Brazilian or Indian, and that's never going to change, but I can also
Integrate to the
integrate
count.
with
Yeah.
you. It's the question with those who are either here by force or who don't want to be here and don't want to integrate,
Yeah.
that it's like, well, why don't you just go elsewhere?
Yeah.
Like it's a big planet.
It's a very big dilemma. Hopefully nothing bad will happen, and I'm just a little stupid guy that really hopes that the world just goes, the right way, really. But
Or AI is
yeah,
just gonna come and kill us.
but I really did enjoy this conversation. It was really good to listen to your story. You went everywhere. I didn't know you went to pilgrim either, or to Jerusalem. I didn't know that about you, and it was great. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being
Thanks so
here,
much for
Carol.
listening to all my traumas
It's
and
alright. We shared a bit of both our stories today. We'll see you at training.
yeah, I'll choke you soon.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.